As a kid, my friends and I would fantasize about the Richard Pryor movie, Brewster's Millions. In this movie, Richard Pryor's character has to spend $30 million in 30 days without having anything left at all. My friends and I would argue about what we would do with that kind of money and think up different ways that we could squander 30 million bucks. Then eventually someone would just decide it's easier to just keep the money and run. So let's play a similar game, but with a slightly different set of rules. First off, instead of squandering our money, we're going to find ways to make it grow. Second, instead of 30 days, we'll increase the time frame to 1 year. Finally, we'll change the amount. It's quite easy to invest $30 million, but what if you only had 100,000 naira? If you can successfully invest 100,000 naira, 30 million in your account won't be a problem. Wink. And at the end of this video recording, I'll be sharing some details of the exact investments I make personally and how you can get started today. So stay tuned. So the first way I would invest 100,000 naira is in mutual funds, specifically money market funds. A mutual fund basically is a type of investment where an investment company pulls together money from different people to invest in various things. With a money market fund, the company invests this money in money market instruments like government bonds and treasury bills. To put it in a different way, you and a bunch of other people are basically loaning the government and other big corporations money at very good rates. So why money market funds and not the other gazillion types of mutual funds? For one, the investment is relatively safe because usually your principal, that's the money you're investing, remains intact even if the interest rates fluctuate. Look at it this way. You're basically loaning the government money, right? So long as the country remains intact, your funds are safe. Number two, the entry requirements are pretty low. You can start with as low as 1,000 bucks, 1,000 naira. If you had to invest directly in government bonds or treasury bills, you'd need nothing less than $1 million naira. Number three, you can easily access your funds. Unlike an actual money market instrument where you can't just liquidate midway through an investment cycle, you can always stop your investment in money markets funds and withdraw your money at any time with no impact on the principal that you've invested. Only the interest would be affected or will be surcharged. Number four, the returns are usually good. In the past 5 years, on average, I've made about 14% return on my investment in money market funds in Nigeria. And this is not accounting for the fact that we had a recession in 2016 when the rates dropped below 7%. This 14% is still higher than the average inflation in the same time frame and definitely better than what you'd get in other investment options in a similar category. I'm looking at your savings accounts. One other advantage of this type of investment is that you really don't need to learn anything new. Just deposit your money with the investment company and wait for your monthly returns. What I do personally is I ask the company to roll over my investment each month with the interest. This way I benefit from compound interest. To make it even juicier, you could increase your contribution every month as well, and then you see what we'll have by the end of the year. My friend Neel put out a video a couple of weeks ago where he explained money market funds in detail, and he also gave links to a number of companies that offer this service in Nigeria. I'll put a link to his video in the description and you can check it out. And I'll also mention the company that I use, that I've used since 2014 at the end of this video. So the second way I'd invest 100,000 naira is in life insurance or voluntary pension contributions. I'm going to group these two together for the same reason. They both help to reduce your tax burden. What do I mean? Let's start with the pension contributions. The Nigerian income tax law was last amended to encourage salary earners to plan for long term. By law, your employer must deduct 8% of your basic salary and also contribute another 10% towards your pensions. This 8% that is deducted from your salary goes untaxed and is invested by your pension fund administrator ahead of your retirement from paid employment. However, you have the option of increasing the amount that you contribute to your pensions, and whatever increments you add to your pensions will also go untaxed. Another part of your salary that is also exempt from tax is whatever premium you pay on your life insurance policy. Unlike the pension contribution, however, it's not deducted from source. You need to make the payments first and then redeem the taxes after a year. So why is this a good investment? consider the fact that the average personal income tax in Nigeria is 24%. You can take it as a 24% return on whatever you contribute towards your pensions. And this is before the pension fund administrator begins investing the pensions over your entire working career. So in the long run, your additional pension contribution each month turns into a significant amount. Look at it this way. If instead of making the additional pension contribution, you had put the money in the savings account, the money in the savings account would have first been taxed by 24%. You don't experience this with your pension contribution. Untaxed, it is invested over a long period of time, and then the returns do make a lot of sense. With the life insurance scheme, a particular sum of money is guaranteed to be paid to your beneficiaries if anything were to happen to you within a specified period of time. After that period of time, usually you get your contribution back. The benefit, however, is that each year you make the premium payments for life insurance, you can reclaim a portion of the tax that was paid on the insurance premium. At current income tax rates, that tax rebate is a good return on your investment. To increase your pension contribution, you only need to inform your employer, and they'll increase the monthly pension contribution deducted from your salary. Be sure, however, to check with your pension fund administrator to confirm that this has been implemented. To get started with your life insurance policy, talk to an insurance broker. I'll let you know the insurance company I use later on in the video. However, make sure that it is a life insurance policy that you get and not any other type of savings policy. The downside to these investment options, however, is that it's for the long term and you don't have access to the contribution or the 24% returns in the short term. You can't access your pension until you're 50 years old or you've been without a paid job for at least 4 months. And for life insurance, you must have contributed the premium payments for at least a full year. You can, however, access up to 50% of your voluntary pension contribution after 2 years with the benefit of the 24% tax exemption and whatever interest might have accrued in that period. The interest will still be taxed though. Nairametrics has a very detailed article on how tax exemptions are calculated in Nigeria, and I'll link to this in the description. The article also provides a sample template that you can use to calculate how much tax you'll be paying if you decide to increase your pension contribution. Option 3 is my favorite investment vehicle and my first love where paper assets are concerned, and that's investing in the stock market or in shares. Now here it gets a bit more interesting. With as low as 50,000 naira in the brokerage account, you can easily start investing in the stock market. If you know what to look out for, you can grow the value of that 50,000 naira significantly. Beside the fact that the value of your investment appreciates over time, you also receive regular dividend payments if you buy into the right companies. However, I must warn you, unlike the first 2 investment options where you don't really need to learn anything new, you can get your fingers burnt investing in shares if you don't know what you're doing or if you're just speculating. I know people that have lost over ₦1 million in shares, or I know people who have actually gone into debt. They borrowed money and went into debt speculating on the stock market. So you really need to know what you're doing where stocks are concerned. I'll put out a separate video on investing in the stock market and how to select the right companies. So look out for that in the coming weeks. I'll also tell you which stockbroker I've used for the past 10 years at the end of this video. My 4th investment vehicle is relatively new in Nigeria and is often considered controversial. This is crowdfunding. It's similar to a mutual fund in that you're basically joining other people to contribute towards an investment. The difference here is that the investment is not managed by a financial institution or a government body. Instead, you're investing directly with the company doing the business. Obviously, this is a more risky approach as the business is usually not an established one. That's why they need the funds, and often they have a higher risk of failure. There is also the risk that the company or investment is an outright scam or a Ponzi scheme. I'll put out a separate video on how to identify a scam later on. On the upside though, the returns are usually much higher than the investment options I mentioned earlier, with the interest rates ranging from 20 to 40% per annum. With this type of investment, I usually test with a small amount that I can risk losing altogether before I go all in. Usually it also helps if the investment is insured or affiliated with a more established organization in some way. Remember, Always do your due diligence and try to understand how the business makes profit and what will ensure that it's sustainable in the future. I'll mention a particular crowdfunding investment that I've been active with since January 2017 later on this video. So my last investment option was going to be, wait for it, mortgage savings account. However, I recently started my journey into property development in Nigeria, and looking at the cost estimates, I'm having a rethink. So, if I'm to grow 100,000 naira in 1 year, I would start a business. Full disclosure here, I'm yet to start this investment option personally, but I stumbled on a Twitter post about this, I'll link below, and you'll be surprised at the number of businesses that you could start with just 100,000 naira. My favorites include setting up a popcorn stand, a cleaning service, and digital marketing in general. I'll make a video about this sometime in the future, hopefully when I've started one of them and I can share my own personal experiences. However, always keep this in mind. A business, like any investment, is only profitable when your income exceeds your expense. It seems obvious, but you need to always do the math and keep your costs low. Also, remember that cost includes your time, because that's time that you could easily spend on other things. So your goal should be to structure the business such that you are an owner and not an employee. In other words, you shouldn't always have to be there for the business to run. Otherwise, you didn't set up a business, you bought yourself a job. Finally, as promised, I'll be sharing details of the companies I invest with and how you can get started today. Before I continue, please note that this is not a sponsored video, and I'm not being paid by anyone to talk about these companies. I'm basically recommending what has worked for me over the years in the hopes that you will find it just as useful for your own investments. So let's start off. For money market funds, I have used ARM Investment Manager since 2014, and I'm quite happy with the service. The rates are not as incredible as they were in 2017. I mean, then they got as high as 18% per annum. That's ridiculous. But the returns are still above inflation rates. This is what I use as my default form of savings every month. The funds remain quite accessible, and the rates supersede any other savings account that I'm aware of. For insurance, I use Mutual Benefits Life Assurance, and while they've had their challenges, it's easy to keep track of your contribution, and I've been able to claim my tax rebates consistently every year since 2014 when I started. My pension fund administrator is Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. They have a pretty decent website that makes it quite easy to keep track of your employer contributions and your voluntary contributions separately. My stockbroker is Lead Securities and Investments. While I choose what stocks that I invest in, they are quite responsive and they execute my buying and selling decisions very promptly. They also have an online portal that works quite well. Most of the time I'm able to even make same-day purchases and sales. FarmCrowdy is an organization that invests in agriculture in Nigeria through crowdfunding. I started investing with them in 2017 and I've received my returns consistently since. The best thing about them is that their farms are insured, so if anything goes wrong with the crops, your funds remain secure. My first investment with them was actually with tomato farms, and they actually had some challenges with their tomatoes that year, but I still got paid not just the amount that I invested, but the promised interest as well. So that's it, my 5 favorite ways to invest and grow your money. If this video has been useful to you in any way, please do 2 things for me. Share it with 2 people that you believe need it, and also click on subscribe for more videos like this. Have a lovely day, and remember, it's not the size of the paycheck, it's how you use it.